I know this man. If you know this man, I know his family. His family, they are very responsible family in Kwara. I understand. See, this man has been, you don't understand. This man is the brain is getting here you get. Now we can set stage. Breaking news. Tinubu approved a $4.3 billion loan for the revampment, refurbishment, and upgrading to 21st century standard refinery, Port Harcourt and Warri Refinery. They won't go borrow money again with that. So that by 2027 or 2028, they go Melek Yari you again. We'll go back. We'll be back to the same thing again. What happened to that one? They say Melek Yari stole in 2025. Like the money they used, they say, what happened to that one? Mayegu Alaye, this is 2030. And we're not talking about Melek Yari again. We are talking about Ojulari. We're not talking about it around $97 million anymore. We are talking about $4.5 billion. So the same Port Harcourt, exactly. So they will prep you. They will begin to prep you now. You begin to get ready. This man said it is such a disappointment. He's probably one of those who believed them then when they said the refineries were working.
The turnaround maintenance have failed. And, that's why people say sometimes that, they don't understand why Nigeria should be poor. Nigeria should not be a poor nation. But you can see it now. If $1 billion is just thrown down the drain, turnaround maintenance that people have come out and commissioned, people that will hold in trust in NNPC have come out and said the thing was working and commissioned it. Port Harcourt was working and commissioned it. And Port Harcourt will land now is operating at 40% capacity. So it's really a tragedy. One of our colleagues in a program has, dissected these issues on the refineries. And I had hoped that we'll get it right. I had hoped. I always believe that if you have the right contractors, instead of all these briefest contractors we used to use in the past, because Nigeria has gone through several cycles of turnaround maintenance on refineries, and each of them always failed. You hear the billions of dollars they get to it, and then at the end of the day, not a liter of petrol comes out. Now, I thought by this time around we'll also get it right. But hopefully, I hope, tied to your story, the next story that you have, which is NNPC management and the new NNPC management team, I hope the new team will get it right. We also read in the papers that they have fired even though not confirmed by NNPC people yet, they have fired the MDs of the 3 refineries. That's Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna, along with a lot of other management staff. But it's not surprising because we already spoke about the new team that the president appointed in place for the NNPCL. And we say for the first time, the right thing had been done, the right people have been put in place. That team is made up of a team of technocrats who are not hungry, looking for to curry favor with anybody, who have strong CVs, and who hope that the board and management team will come in place and make sure that the right things are done, and NNPC takes its rightful place in the oil industry worldwide. So when they mention the other national oil companies in the world, NNPC will have its right of place also. So the second thing he heard about employees being fired, we know that when we spoke about the key success factors for turning around a company, being a first-class company, we talked about the quality of employees. We talked about recruitment process that is transparent. We are the best or hired for each position. I don't have the statistics here, but I can say that NNPC has not been very transparent in the recruitment process historically. We've known that a lot of people have been put in funny situations. But so the new team that's come to turn around NNPC must have their own team in place. I'm sure they've done a staff audit and identified those who they believe would have helped them achieve the objective. And so it's not surprising that this is happening. It's not surprising.
Welcome the restructuring.
Nuisance, Lele.
Let me wait till I just talk with that. He's already talking about a new team, a team that is not hungry. Who is not hungry? they give you an NPC appointment. Even if you claim not to be hungry, you become so ferocious. I've been at vociferous. I've been at glutonians. It is the system. But that's what they do. They send people like that to TV to go and tell people that a new team is now in place. And guess what? By the time you begin to look at it, the new team, they are part of the last team. Yeah? So the Aluta continua. Of course, now they will sack this. Yeah, we have sacked the They now sack the managers. Baba, NNPC gave contracts of turnaround maintenance of the refinery to their crooks and their cronies. But right now, to make it look like they are doing some shake-up, they are doing some new thing, they don't sack the managers. Kaduna Refinery, which was built, I think it was built about 15 or so years ago now. Kaduna Refinery. Kaduna no get crude oil. From Kaduna to Imo State, which you can say is the closest before you begin to go to the creeks. Or let's say Kaduna to Anambra State, which is also an oil producing state too. So that's like about 700 kilometers apart. But they are intending to supply Kaduna Refinery with the crude oil from Bayelsa, 900 kilometers away. And you know something? Since the establishment of Kaduna Refinery, they have never refined a teaspoonful of crude oil, ever. You want to hear the other funniest part of this corrupt system? They get staff. They have managers. They have directors. Baba, they have a wage bill. The last time, in 2017, the total salary paid to Kaduna Refinery workers was put at 12 point something billion naira. In 2019, 2020, that jumped to over 20 billion naira, 21 billion naira, precisely. By 2022, 2023, brethren, they paid Kaduna Refinery workers a total sum of 47 billion naira. It's actually in the budget. And you know something? Kaduna Refinery budget for I think it was a 2022 or so, was over 200 billion naira. And guess what? Teaspoonful of crude oil, spoon crude oil, they've never refined it, ever. That's what the system is. The people that are supposed to help, entrust to help manage what is supposed to be the national assets, they have divided them, they have shared it among themselves. They're not holding it in trust for you anymore. That's the wrong thing. That's the wrong impression that some of you have. They're not holding any public trust. I mean, they are not holding any, the public resources in trust for you anymore. It is for them. The earlier, the better. The earlier, the better. You know this. So that's why we'll be like, how many times would they tell you?
How many times would they tell you before you know that Nigeria is not for you? Now they never leave you. They have left you behind. Photo, not be juju be that. Sorry, oh. May God not allow them, make them kill you. 70 years old man. I am mumu na too much. You be mumu. You think say they wise?
Muma, Ronoku, and bad idiots. Look at me very well. I strongly believe that whatever they did to you, somehow you can undo it. I think it can be undone. Because the entire system is rigged against you. You are not spared. Tinubu and his gang, they've always been about themselves. You can continue to help them push that tribal, ethnic, religious, divisive, hateful rhetorics all over the place, but you will remain the voluntary slaves that you are, worthless, because you're worth nothing to them. They know the consequences of their actions will impoverish more of you. But no, double down. One of them, called Sungomu, is the special advisor to Tinubu. Maybe he's never even met Tinubu. Remember Baba Ahmed, Akim Baba Ahmed, who has been the Tinubu's special advisor for over a year, and he's never met Tinubu once to discuss about. He's a special advisor to Tinubu on politics through the office of a shitty man. He's never had any one-on-one with Tinubu. He said he saw him twice in the last 1.5 years. He saw him twice in the mosque, Jumat prayer. The person where you work for, we don't even see you. Do you understand? But now, here is a clown in suits telling everybody that they have lifted over 10 million Nigerians out of poverty. Where are the 10 million? And you 10 million, they know what?
If we maintain,
his name is Sonono. I don't know the meaning, right? So I just kind of like choose the one that works for me. I call him Sogomu. You may never even see much of his face anymore. You may never see his face again. But yeah, he's one of the supposed court jesters, the clowns, entertaining Tinubu in the old rock. From there, Baba Kim said, sometimes you wonder if people will be like, if people can be very sincere, because after leaving old rock, you still get to see the ordinary everyday people, what they are passing through. Some of them will meet you and say, please, why don't you talk to your guy now? This whole thing is true. You know, they talk to Ramni. Say, well, we don't see him, right? But whenever you are in the villa, they are giving themselves award, organizing banquets, organizing, Thanksgiving, flaunting the supposed their wealth of the land, yeah, without any sort of like fear or anything in that contraption. But still, they will come out and remind you that they have indeed saved 10 million Nigerians out of poverty. Where are they?
if we maintain this trajectory, and then with strong monitoring and evaluation component that the government instituted, using the office of their special assistant on policy development,
Yeah.
things can go in the right, and that's why
Well,
I've
actually,
mentioned
we-
that this is not the first time Nigeria is having
Yeah.
prediction.
Okay. Well,
But how much did we utilize the information?
Right. We hope that you're right, because we would prefer it if poverty goes down. Nobody likes the idea that poverty is going up.
But let's look at it
No,
now.
let me
Yeah.
just make a point, okay? You're a member of the APC, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a member, Kat Karimpem, elected in different dimensions.
How long has the APC been in power now?
How long? At least 10 years from now.
Very good. Now, the previous government of President Buhari, an APC government, I might add, said its goal was to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years. In 2021, he said he had lifted 10.5 million people out of poverty. But a fact check conducted by Premium Times newspaper and other civil society groups, as well as official NBS data, showed that 10 million people actually slipped into rather than came out of poverty. So your administration, I mean the Tinubu administration, was essentially starting from zero in 2023 after the same APC party had been in office for 8 years. Though I might add that it was, as I said, the same APC government. And now the cycle begins again. And you're asking us again to give you our ears and sit there and listen to you while you spew all kinds of things about what you intend to do.
No, I didn't say you should give us their eyes to this thing. But I have to tell you what are the strategies now adopted to make sure that we abate the prediction and we reverse the narratives and change the dynamics.
Is there continuity between the Buhari government and your government?
Government is continuum.
Yeah, I want to know how many people were
continuum. I've just told you
how many people have been systematically. The projection of that APC government was 100 million in 10 years.
That's in 2030.
From 2021
to 2030.
Okay, we're now in 2025, 4 years later. Subsequent to him saying that, a fact check was done and people found that rather than people being lifted out of poverty, people had fallen into poverty. Give us the statistics in the last 2 years that you've been in office.
You have quoted an official figure, of which MBS is a government document. You understand?
Of course.
And therefore, you have quoted an official distance. But you see, why do we have monitoring and evaluation component of every program? You can predict, you can debate, but you can look back and say, okay, what are the issues that made me not achieve what I've targeted? Oh my God.
Yes, you can do a post-mortem.
You understand?
Certainly.
And I told you, the overdependence on using monetary dimension as against the multidimensional nature of poverty is a major setback. And that's why it was reversed by looking at the multidimensional poverty. For instance, we have looked at that, and I was even in Oxford about 6 weeks ago,
right,
which we have reviewed the report. And what do we find majorly is that most states do not use the result of the study in terms of budgeting and planning for their state. And therefore, there is need for that. And that was part of the recommendation I have forwarded to Mr. President when I came back. And Mr. President gladly directed all that should be circularized to call on the attention of all the states to look at the various components. Because that is very, very important. The approach we are saying, well, it's not giving us looking. Look at if you look at the 5 states or 6 states that are the poorest states, of which Sokoto, Bayelsa, Kebbi, Jigawa, Gombe, and which are Yobe. If you look at them now, while they are the poorest, but if you disintegrate the different components of poverty, you find that each dimension is contributing differently to the level of that state poverty. So if you give it a holistic approach, you are not likely to succeed. For instance, for Bayelsa, housing is a major issue because you need to claim this thing, you need to do this thing. Out of school is not an issue as much as that of Sokoto, which in terms of contribution to poverty. So if you said you are going to address issue of out of school children in Bayelsa to improve their status, you will not get result as when you apply that in Sokoto. So
I see the point you're trying to make, but I don't see the point of it.
No, the point of it is that if you remain focused and the scarce resources you have, and you direct it appropriately, you'll be able to.
I understand that, but my point remains the same.
Yes.
You being APC, you've been in power for 10 years. These mistakes that you're talking about, in other words, we should sit back whilst you make mistakes.
We are not saying,
and then you come back and say, oh yeah, we screwed up. We're going to make another attempt.
You are trying to push what my mouth.
I'm just saying, because I'm trying to understand how many people you've lifted out of poverty in 10 years.
Your interpretation is quite different. What I'm telling you is that there is a system now we put in place to see how much we can contribute to make things better than
so after 8 years,
you see,
you've now put a system in place.
The system is that we have lifted 10 million out of poverty.
There's no evidence to support.
You have mentioned that.
No.
But you see, no.
I said there was a fact check, and 10 million more people had fallen into poverty.
If you put what we now what moved them back to poverty, and that's what we should be able to address. You understand? And that's also what, if we maintain.
Ẹni òfò ni ẹ ṣòfò láyé ẹ tún ṣe lálìkìyàmà ẹ̀yin rádaràda wọ̀nyí. Ẹni òfò ni ẹ ṣòfò láyé ẹ tún ṣe lálìkìyàmà ẹ̀yin rádaràda wọ̀nyí. Ẹni òfò ni ẹ ṣòfò láyé ẹ tún ṣe lálìkìyàmọ̀ ẹ̀yin rádaràda wọ̀nyí.
Allahumma amen. Now they see the ways that are defending Tinubu. He said they were somehow, right? They believe that it is because